Are these for me? Good morning, everyone. I'm advised by Alan, our executive director, that we have a quorum, so we'll get started. We'll call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Point of the Mountain State Land Authority Board. My name is Lowry Snow. I'm one of the co-chairs. We also have a co-chair, Representative Jordan Tusher, who is traveling actually out of the country. He may be able to join us virtually, or we may excuse him depending on his ability to connect. This is the regular time for our meeting. We recently changed it to accommodate the legislative calendar so that we didn't conflict with them. We previously had it on the third Tuesday. We're back on the second Tuesday of every month. We welcome board members. Grateful for all of our board, those that are here present. Looks like just me, but and everyone else that has joined us virtually. We appreciate them and their service. We also appreciate members of the public who are here in the meeting and who also join us virtually. So let's start with Nick. Would you come up and take a seat there? I want to start with introducing Nick Dirksen. Nick was one of the candidates for the position of to oversee land development. His official position will be Director of Land Development. Alan tells me that there were for that position about 60 applications that came in. Those were narrowed to a group of 3 or 4. And I was privileged to sit in on the final interviews with Senator Fillmore and had a chance to meet Nick then, although I think I'd met you before that, Nick. And I can't tell you how grateful we are to have him and his services, especially given his experience, to assist us as we get now focused on development and all the issues related to development going forward. So with that, Nick, if you wouldn't mind taking a minute and introduce yourself to the board and to the public, we'd appreciate that.
I'm assuming this is on. Nick Dirksen, I'm really honored to be part of the team. I have about 35 years of experience in community economic development. I've worked from St. George to Logan, but I spent a majority of my career as the economic development director of Sandy City. I was there 29 years. Most recently, I've been working with UTA and helping them build TODs, working on 4 different ones at this point. But I saw this opportunity and had a conversation, and what an exciting opportunity. I've watched the Point being in Sandy all those years, obviously very close to the operations of what's happening with the prison site and what was taking place. Was always fascinated by the approach. It's unique. There's not another project like it. That's what makes it, I think, incredibly intriguing. It's one of a kind, and who doesn't want to work for a project that's one of a kind? So I'm very excited. The team is excellent. I've known Alan for some time. Of course, Don and Muriel and the rest of the team. Looking forward to working with all of them. I know many of the development partners. I'd worked with them on projects before, so I have a good relationship with them. My approach to things is to be a problem solver. I seek solutions. There's ways to get things done. You just have to work together and find those and be collaborative. I'm big on transparency. People have to know what's happening and what's going on. You can't expect them to help you with decision-making and solutions if they don't understand what we're working with. So those are things that are very important to me in trying to get a project done. And in my past career, I've had a lot of success at that and been able to do some projects that everyone said could never happen or will never work, and take great pride in making those happen. So I know there's a lot of optics on this project, and that's wonderful, actually. That's a good thing. Sometimes people criticize the public sector for moving so slow, but there's a reason. The reason is because of the transparency and the inclusion of everyone and getting public comment and public engagement. So that does slow down the process, but there's a reason for it, and that's a good thing. And so I look forward to that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. And we extend again a warm welcome, be part of the team. I think public and members of the board that have listened to Nick just in the last few minutes can appreciate what we saw when we interviewed him, looked at his resume, his wealth of experience. You're going to be a great addition to the team. Thanks, Nick.
It's a pleasure to be part of it. Thank you.
Moving on with the agenda, the next item is our public comment period. Just as a reminder, we all know that the point is a public project, and as a board, we have a responsibility to ensure that the project reflects the values and provides opportunity for the public to comment on those values and whether we're headed in the right direction. We truly value the input from residents. In fact, up to this date, something like 16,000 Utah residents have shared their priorities and their ideas and wishes for this project. So we welcome public comment. There are two avenues for that. One, if you're here in person, in public, we'll give you an opportunity. And the other avenue is via a virtual link. So let's start with anyone here in the room that would like to take opportunity to make a comment. If you'd raise your hand or come forward. Welcome. Why don't you have a seat there at the table? And if you would begin by stating your name, we'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to make your comments.
All right, sounds good. Good morning, everyone. My name is Giovanni Rojas, and I'm a recent graduate from Kearns High School. I'm still fresh into the new world, and so when I first heard about this project, it was amazing because there are a lot of youth like me that don't know much about taking responsibility, leadership. Most of us are confused by getting told what to do. And, I think this statue is it's very important to us, to the new generation, because, it gives us a light to look forward to into the dark future. So, it's a reminder to me that I should step up and be that support for my community, for my people. And, my parents, it reminds me about all the hard work that they did to get here. And so, now it's my favorite to return that hard work to them, let them enjoy their retirement years and all that when I'm older. And so, but yeah, this is just an amazing project. And, thank you guys so much for letting me come out here and share my thoughts, because, this is just amazing, amazing, amazing. But thank you guys so much. Hope you guys have a good day.
Thank you very much. Before you step back, tell me your name again. I didn't catch it.
Giovanni Rojas,
Okay.
Giovanni.
Giovanni?
Yeah, Giovanni.
Well, thanks for taking some time. I think hearing from young people is good for us and a great privilege for you. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else here in the audience, please, if you'd come forward. Welcome. If you'd like to state your name, and you can give us your comment.
Certainly. My name is Bob Snyder. I'm the CEO of a Utah-based company, Renatus. We happen to have the wonderful distinction of being the very first corporate supporter of the Statue of Responsibility. That was over a decade ago, and we've been supporting it ever since because I believe in the project. Lisa told me that I had to make some bragging points, and she would insist upon that. Our company has accomplished a number of things over the years. Last year, I was fortunate enough to be named to be able to receive the Utah Best of State Award in Entrepreneurship for a lot of the things that we've accomplished. And I say we because it's a collective effort. But the statue is important to me for a number of reasons, and I wish I had more than 3 minutes to explain that. Number one, I really believe that the symbol that it represents is a symbol that is necessary and needed in our day and age. That individuals really need to understand the importance of personal responsibility, the consequences that take place with our actions. A symbol can be a lot of things to a lot of people. For me, it represents all that is good and all that is right about America. And to have it founded right here in Utah is significant. I didn't realize it until I was sitting there just a minute ago that this one has significance for me. When I was a young lad, my father made some incorrect choices, and he had to take responsibility for it. Not voluntarily. He got into drugs and alcohol, and he spent a couple of years at the point of the mountain in the prison system. And we used to drive every single week down to the point of the mountain to visit my father in prison. And I was young, but I still remember those days. The fact that now the statute of responsibility that I've been supporting for the last 10 years with my company and my community is now, has a possibility of being built and established on the very spot that housed and incarcerated so many individuals because of their incorrect choices is profound. I almost think that, obviously there are things that happen for a reason. I believe that this one definitely did. I want to make sure that this happens here in the state of Utah. I believe what it will do for the state of Utah is profound. I can see people from all over the world coming to the state to visit this incredible land and to increase the tourism and exposure that our wonderful state has. To be able to take social media images and pictures and flood the internet with the Statue of Responsibility, just as they have the Statue of Liberty. That this can be an iconic symbol that will not only resonate with the citizens of the state, but also send a message to the world and invite them to come and visit and see what we have as far as our morals, our characters, and our standards that make such a big part of things. There's so much to this project, and I am looking forward to seeing it built. And as the first corporate sponsor, we were also the first to renew our pledge to support it. And I want to make darn good and sure that everybody knows that we're behind it 110%, want to see it through.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder.
Thank you.
You probably heard that little alarm.
I did hear the alarm, and I thought, well, that was timely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was that. And so we hate to cut you short, but we appreciate very much your comments, and it's pretty clear you're passionate about this project. So thanks for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Anyone else here, please come forward. Welcome. I think it's Woody.
It
Could
is Woody. Thank you
state
so
your full
much.
name.
It's Woody Woodward.
Okay, Woody.
Appreciate you, gentlemen, and everyone who's participating. I've been attracted to the statute of responsibility for many reasons. I've written over 42 books. I've studied human behavior for my entire life. And when I look at the definition of responsibility, the ability to respond in a world in which we live in now, and especially with Giovanni, what he was saying, that next generation, we need to teach people that they have the right and the ability to respond. And if we don't teach them that, then we're going to repeat history over and over again. And we've seen that in Ukraine. We see that in the Middle East. It is time that we have a national monument that teaches people and inspires people to want to take personal responsibility and personal action.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you taking time, Mr. Woodward.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anyone else here in the audience? Oh, please come forward. Welcome, and if you begin by stating your name, we'd love to hear your comments.
Hi, I'm Don Horton. I just recently learned about the project, became a big fan the very first day I heard it. I represent some NGOs and some sovereign wealth fund assets that we would like to cooperate to help in this project if it's approved. And I love this movement for a number of truth and fact reasons. It represents to me the past with Dr. Viktor Frankl and what happened with him. And it shows that if you never give up and you keep a good attitude through all challenges, you can thrive coming through the backside of difficult situations, which our country, I think, is in the present of this. It also represents the present. It's artfully elegant, it's thoughtful, it's meaningful, it's worthwhile, and it's simply beautiful, I think. The message that we must guard our freedoms, reverence and honor them. And why? Because the positive and negative energy that exists in the world, we can't live or anything exist without both those energies. So it symbolizes cooperation. And I love that message. It represents the future, these helping hands that say, working together, we can achieve great things. What great things? How about your ontological and physiological peak performing self? When you're giving service, helping another, you are improving self. It represents The height, I think, represents the fact that there's this symbolism between the Statue of Liberty, which happens to be 305 feet, and this one, 305 feet. That east and west thing they talk about. I love that as well. The stained glass windows to me symbolize let the light from within and without shine. And that is a powerful message to create that beauty in the structure itself, because it shows that diversity and inclusion by cooperating presents something that we can be grateful for in creating our own heaven on earth. I love the observation deck because it symbolizes the opportunity to see all things from a new or different perspective with aim to improve things, self, family, community. I love the fact that it's being made out of recycled aluminum because that refers to our perpetually sustainable desire in nature and the ability for us to come together as a purpose of life symbol. Purpose of life being to explore, experience, to learn, and thrive. And if we're not thriving, make a different choice to simply survive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Horton, for your comments. Anyone else here? Welcome to our board meeting. If you'd like to state your name, and we'd love to hear your comments.
I'm Randy Edwards. I'm a retired Command Sergeant Major, 38 years in the military. I got involved with the Statue of Liberty many years ago. I don't even know how many years I've been involved with it, but Lisa told me it was before she even became involved with it. But the Statue of Responsibility is what I have believed, what we fought for in Special Forces, de oppressor liber. That means to liberate the oppressed. There's no better time right now. We are the depressed here in the United States, the way we are working in our country partisan. We need to be working bipartisan. We need to be working together as a unit. Nothing pulls us together more than this Statue of Responsibility. And what better place than to do it here in Utah? I am proud to be from Utah, the state of industry, where we make things happen. This makes things happen. This is God reaching out of heaven, reaching down to us and pulling us out of the situation that we're in today. In 1976, we were told that the Constitution of the United States was hanging by a thread. We definitely are there today. We are hanging by a thread. And the Statue of Responsibility is an opportunity for us to be pulled together, not only by partially, but through character. Our character in Utah and bringing this in Utah and in Lehigh is very significant. It's bigger than any one of us can ever imagine. I was on the board of directors for this when it first started, but I realized how small I am. I'm just a grain of sand on a beach. But if we can get enough of those grain of sands together and make this happen, Utah will be recognized throughout the world and will be a symbol of peace of what we represent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Edwards. And by the way, thank you for your service to this country.
Pleasure.
Anyone else here that would like to make a comment? Good morning. If you'd state your name, please, and you can give us your comment.
Yeah, Jennifer Gardner. I am a business owner in Riverton, Utah. I know very diverse in the community, and when we found out about the Statue of Responsibility, we were really excited. I love what it resembles. I love what it will bring to the community, and it just says exactly what Utah is. We serve and we come together as a community and a unity, and I don't know anywhere else in the country that resembles that more than Utah. And I think that it would be such a great monument for all of us and for everyone to see who we actually are and what we represent.
Thank you very much for being here and for your comments. Anyone else? I think some of us know who you are, but why don't you start again by stating your
Thank
name
you.
and we'll hear you.
I'm Lisa Clark Price, and I am the Senior VP with the Statue of Responsibility Foundation. And I want to thank these people who showed up today, some who I have never met until today. And I appreciate that. And I do want you to know that every single day now, we receive a call, an email, a text from someone from around the country and around the world expressing their absolute support for the Statue of Responsibility. And I have a couple letters here. I won't read them all, but I do want you to know that they have been added to our packet online for your review. Most importantly is one from Alexander Wesley Frankel, the grandson of Viktor Frankl. And I'm just going to read the very first part, stating that he is writing to express his wholehearted support for the project to erect a Statue of Responsibility on America's West Coast. Later, he actually says, at the crossroads of the West here in Utah. And I'm going to end with his portion here that states, the design of the statue, conceptualized by Gary Lee Price, embodies the spirit of accountability and commitment to others. While my grandfather may not be here, his grandfather, Viktor Frankl, to witness the monumental endeavor, I take solace in knowing that his wife, Ellie, my family, and countless others have the opportunity to see this vision materialize. And he thanks us for the opportunity of bringing this here to Utah. The second letter, I think, is very significant to everyone here, especially here in Utah. And this is from the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce has expressed their support of the establishment of the Statue of Responsibility at the Point. This project represents a powerful state symbol and also promises significant cultural and economic benefits for Utahns while enhancing our national and international visibility. For those reasons, we are behind this effort and hope to welcome this important landmark to our state. In closing, Derek Miller stated, I urge the board to approve the proposed site for this significant monument. Together, we have a unique opportunity to inspire current and future generations. Thank you for considering this transformative project. With your support, the Statue of Responsibility will become a beacon of hope where responsibility guides freedom, shaping a brighter future for all. And I'm truly happy to tell you that we have also connected with the Statue of Liberty and their foundation, and we will be having a call with them this week, and meeting with them in July. So thank you for your time. And again, thank you for the opportunity to have the Statue of Responsibility possibly here in Utah.
Thank you, Lisa, for being here and for your comments and for the comments of the group as well. Do we have any comments online? No hands raised. So we'll move forward. We, again, appreciate those that have taken the time to be here and to furnish us with those comments. So the next item on the agenda is somewhat of a business housekeeping. We will consider approving the minutes of our May 21st, 2024 board meeting. If I could receive a motion to approve those minutes from someone attending, a board member attending virtually.
So moved. This is Representative Stenquist.
Thank you, Representative. It's been moved that we approve the May 21st, 2024 board minutes. Do I have a second?
Second, it's Jenny Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. It's been moved and seconded. We approve the said minutes. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
I'll rule that that motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is to consider the FY25 budget proposal. As I have mentioned in previous meetings, I think last month, by law, we are required to approve the F25 budget no later than our June meeting, which is where we are now. During our May meeting, we shared a draft of the budget for your comment. The board did not suggest or recommend any changes to the draft. The final proposal is included in our packet today. As always, we appreciate the work of our Finance Committee, April Cooper and Mike Ombre in reviewing our financial statements and helping to prepare the budget. So with that, I'm going to recognize Don Willie, our Director over Financial and Business Operations, I guess, is the point. You'll have to remind me what your title is, Don, when the time comes. Director of Operations. Okay. I'll make sure that we get it right next time. But he is here today to go over the financials and present the proposed budget. We would also invite April and Mike Ombre to provide any follow-up comments to that end. So with that, Don, our Director of Operations, will turn the time to you. We appreciate all that you do, and we appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Chair Snow. I do have the catch-all title, so it's amorphous. You can call me whatever you need, but always a privilege to serve in this capacity and support this project. Also want to extend my appreciation again to our Finance Committee members and the work that they put in to review our monthly budget and also in preparing our proposed FY25 budget. So first, and we're just a quick clarification. We're not normally we review our monthly financials as well because of the shortened window that we had between last month and this month's meeting. We will review our financials next month. Just with that shortened gap, the systems haven't updated enough to with a substantive change. So we'll focus on FY25, and then we'll have the closeout for FY24 in our next meeting. We do, at this moment, have our forecast end of year financials though, and last year we budgeted $3.89 million in our budget with 1.5 million actuals. So we came in quite a bit under half with prudent expensing and staying on track with our budget. So roughly 2.3 million remaining that will carry forward. That puts us this year with a beginning balance of 11.67 million in our budget. And so that's what this budget is based off of. I'll go through line by line. We didn't go in too much detail during our last meeting, so I do want to make sure we spend some time reviewing this in more detail before it goes to a vote. First, we had budgeted for a fully staffed office of 3 full-time individuals last year. As we heard from Nick this morning, we're thrilled to have them on board, but that did mean we only had 2 FTEs in FY24. So in FY25, we budgeted for that third personnel as well as a half-time administrative assistant if we feel like we need to move forward with that position. We've adjusted our travel expenses as well. So recognizing our in-state travel may be a little bit less this year just because we don't have as much going on with the development agreement and travel within the state. We've reduced that slightly. It also does leave room for us to travel and present throughout the state as well about the project. We want to make sure that we can, being a statewide project, make sure that we can provide information and updates on the project itself. We've increased our out-of-state travel expenses. We anticipate, as news has gotten out that the project is moving forward, that we will likely be presenting more and attending trade shows. Just this last week, I was able to go to Bio International to represent the point and met with several large life science and biotech companies to introduce them to this project. And so we anticipate that we'll have opportunities moving forward, more opportunities to travel out of state and discuss and promote the project, provide updates, and make valuable connections that will enhance the return for the residents of the state. We've retained our more bare bones operating expenses when it comes to human resource payroll services. We've retained those, slightly increased our wireless communication, and that just reflects the potential for a third cell phone budgeted for Nick coming on board. We have increased our budget for material development up to 8,000. This, again, as we anticipate additional opportunities to promote the point, we want to ensure that we can promote accordingly with well-designed marketing materials and promotion through social media and other channels. We've been able to identify a significant cost savings in our contractual services. Part of this is shuffling it around and realigning according to state budgeting standards. So we have kept in this budget line our planning, graphic design, and some miscellaneous budget as well. We moved several of these down to our professional and technical services. And this better aligns with the state budgeting practices. But both of those lines, those are significant budget lines for us. Both of them have been reduced, again, because we are past the development agreement negotiating stages, and with our focus now, we've been able to realize some cost savings. We've maintained our legal services, largely because we are now entering the PID phase of the development. And so we rely heavily on our legal expertise. And so we've kept that budget line where it's at. We are significantly under budget this year, but we anticipate that we'll have additional need going into FY25. Moving down, just minor increases in office supplies. Again, that's representative with new staff coming on. Printing and binding, of course, that's primarily the printing side of budget. Again, marketing materials as we anticipate additional opportunities to promote the development. We made some budget changes this year, again, to recognize to align our budget with state budget categories better. And as we brought in some of the services, digital services that we use, subscriptions, we increased that budget line this year in FY24 as we look to FY25. This is just accounting for that total budget that we anticipate. So this includes QuickBooks, MailChimp, Zoho, all of our digital subscriptions that we use to operate efficiently. Moving down, our insurance bonding, we kept at 10,000. We would likely increase that in the following years, but this year that'll remain at that level. Reception and meeting costs. This again, we've been under budget on, so we have kept it at 5,000 moving into FY25. We did, as we've had some outgoing board members, we added some additional budget for recognition as we move into FY25, and we're working on just some simple plaque that we can provide to board members and others that have been part of the project, and thank them for their service appropriately. We've been able to recognize a small savings in our membership dues with some efficiencies, while ensuring that there are other groups that we can look at, possibly sponsor, become a member of, again, with the opportunity to promote and discuss progress of the development. We've also increased slightly our conventions, workshops, seminars budget line. Again, this goes hand in hand with the out-of-state travel expense. The opportunities that we have, this will be the fees associated with those conventions or trade shows that we participate in. Lastly, we left our contingency at 200,000 as it was last year, just given our previous and current budgeting. We retained the budget lines pretty similar as we move into all of our technology expenses. We did have an overbilling in FY24. DTS charges did not come through until after the end of the fiscal year for the prior fiscal year. So FY23 carried into 24, which is why we made an adjustment. And so we've moved that down, anticipating that we'll have all those cleared in FY24 and have a more consistent FY25. We've budgeted as we move forward with the development for a website upgrade. This is in conjunction with our development partners. We're having conversations with them right now to ensure that the website is aligned and represents both past and historical content, as well as a forward-facing perspective on the site, and attracting the audience to the website that is interested in being part of the development, either as a potential renter, a leasee, or purchaser of real estate in the future. That brings us down to the bottom of our budget here. We had been granted a $500,000 grant through the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. We've spent about $100,000 by the end of this fiscal year with our design partners, our public art design partners. So we recognize that we have about $400,000 left with additional carryover into future years as well. That leaves us with a total budget this year for FY25, this coming fiscal year, of $3,416,000 compared to our last fiscal year at 3.8, which recognizes a $481,000 reduction in the budget. So a savings that goes directly to the bottom line and I think shows our prudent use of these public dollars and ensuring that we're doing more with less, everything we can, more efficiently while not compromising on the effectiveness of our work. So with that, I'll turn it back to you for any questions.
Thank you, Don. And before I entertain questions, I think it's, in this day and age, it's remarkable that a government entity who, in my opinion, we actually expand our footprint, so to speak, and expand our services and reduce our budget. So credit to you and to Alan and all those that make this happen. So with that, let's go to the board and see if any member has questions for Don relating to this, what we're going to be proposing here is our final FY25 budget. Let's go to Senator Stevenson.
Thank you. You know, this is amazing, and I want everyone to know I've been watching this online. I've been in a MITA board meeting across in the Capitol, and I don't know how we managed to schedule them both at the same time, but we did a great job in doing that today. And I would agree with our good chair here that this is quite amazing. We have several land use authorities in the state of Utah, and I would report that they're all doing remarkably well. I've been had the opportunity to work with 3 of them, and we've got some different opportunities tied with them, and I think we'll talk about that in a few minutes when we get to we'll talk about the PID process. But anyway, I just thank you very much. It is quite amazing. I think we've done a remarkable job out there. Alan, you and your team have been incredible, and while we've gone through there, that's an enormous project for the state of Utah, and I think the future is very, very bright for everything that we're doing there. Thank you so much. But great budget, and it definitely needs to be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Other comments from board members? If you'd like to raise your hand so we can pick you up online. Okay, not, pardon. Oh, Mayor Wilson, did you raise your hand or would you like to make a comment?
Nope, sorry. I was
Okay.
just turning on my camera, so I must have
That's
hit a
okay.
button, but no, since you asked, I think great job on preparing this budget and I support it.
Thank you, Mayor. And didn't mean to put you on the spot, but we're glad to have you with us. Not seeing any other hands raised for any further comments or questions for Don. The chair would entertain a motion to entertain any motion, but hopefully a motion to approve the FY25 budget as presented by our Director of Operations.
This is April Cooper. I'll motion to approve the new year budget.
Thank you, April. Motion is to approve the budget as been described. Senator Stevenson,
I would second that motion.
being seconded by Senator Stevenson. Any discussion to the motion? Not seeing any indication. I'll place the motion for vote. All in favor of the motion that we approve the F25 budget as prepared and proposed by Director of Operations, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And thanks again, Don, for
Thank
your
you.
work. All right, going on to the next item on the agenda is to consider amendment to the board loan policy. As I think we all know, the board previously adopted a policy outlining the process to determine how funds from the Land Authority's revolving loan fund would be allocated. The State Finance Review Committee suggested some edits to that policy, which we've included, has been included in the drafts distributed this morning. So with that, I'm going to recognize Alan for presentation on this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, we had this policy in place. The State Finance Review Committee asked us to explore some changes. Our very capable counsel, J.C. Skinner, has been working on this. I'll be honest, frankly, some of the things they've asked for don't fit with the statutory structure, and so we're trying to satisfy them while accomplishing what we need to with this. But I think maybe the thing to do now, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chair, is to turn it to JC and let her walk through some of these changes that we've considered.
It's a good suggestion. JC?
Thank you, Director Matheson. And I have to apologize to the board. This is not a overly complicated process, but one that has been more difficult than anticipated to just put in writing. So as Director Matheson mentioned, this board passed a loan prioritization policy last year before implementing before going forward and approving the infrastructure loan that has gone forward. You don't have a loan pending in front of you right now, but as was mentioned, we received some feedback around that policy. And mostly it's incorporating some of the statutory structure and some of those other things surrounding that. So just so you can anticipate, we would like to make sure that finance is okay with the direction that we include there. But the requests to include have just been that we include in the policy itself some more introductory language, some statutory parameters surrounding that, that we provide within the policy the methodology for the approval, which again is outlined in statute, so that will be there. You will all recall that the main section of your loan approval policy is really the prioritization and what this board has determined to be the most important priorities for the use of those loan funds. And so it really is just listing out those prioritizations. The other changes that we'll be making is just defining, again, including the members of the loan committee, including some of the process pieces, and including some of the positions from modification of loan terms, et cetera. Those are all included in the loan agreement. So it really is pulling out those outside pieces there. We don't anticipate changing the prioritization policy itself. It's just the pieces surrounding it. So we will hopefully have that ready for you to go next board meeting. And again, please accept my apologies for letting this one slip through the cracks.
Thank you, JC. Before you step back, let's see if there's any questions from board members for you. JC, well, let's go to Senator Stevenson, and I have one.
I just have a comment. You know, we have several land use authorities in the state of Utah, and they're all structured just a little bit different. And this probably will cause some change in legislation in the next session to see if we can't clarify this a little bit. Let me just use 4 land use authorities as an example where things get very complicated. And so we have the Point of the Mountain, which the state owns all the property. So tax increment doesn't work very well. We have MIDA, which has property and has the ability to impose a tax increment when you put together a bond or you do the financing. We have the Inland Port, which owns no property, and they do have the ability to put forth a tax increment. And then it looks like we may get in the ball stadium business, and if that happens, that property is actually partly owned by the state and partly owned. So it will cause a fee and also a increment would probably be imposed there. So it's very complicated. What we're doing is right, and we have the ability to work with fees, but right now not taxes. And so we have to work through this, and it's something coming up, but we certainly need to be moving forward. I think at least my opinion is, we take the advice of our legal counsel and we take the advice of those that work with us, and we move forward with the process. I know this isn't an action item right now, but we work through that process and then kind of go in through the back door and fix it, if you will. And I think it's imperative that we're moving ahead on this and not just waiting for something to happen or putting it off 8 or 9 months. So that's an opinion I have. I appreciate our staff and what they've done. And I've been involved in the creation of most of these entities, and I didn't apparently see some of the problems we had coming with them. But anyway, we are in a great spot. JC, I mean, you've done an amazing job with what you've done here and presented this and pulled this together, but I think there's a way we can move forward on it.
Thank you, Senator, for your comments. Other questions or comments from the board? So JC, I wanted to follow up with something I think you said, and maybe the senator mentioned. So is this ready for action today? No.
No, it is not.
Okay,
We,
so
we
we'll
wanted
put
to
it-
give you an update. We had anticipated it being so, but
Okay.
just proved a little more.
Well, I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I wanted to make sure. And so this is a really good preview that we've heard. And so we'll look for it to be back on the agenda to approve. One of the things I like that Senator Stevenson said about we move forward, and if we have to make changes as we move forward, we're pretty nimble that way. As a commission, we can do that. And it's not unusual, as you know, Senator, that we do that in the legislature too. We move forward.
Good at backing up and fixing
Yeah. And that's a good thing. So thanks, JC, for your presentation. And maybe while you're sitting there, probably good to have you remain. We're going to move into the next item on the agenda, which you'll have a part in, and that's to discuss and review the governing document for potential public infrastructure districts. We oftentimes refer to those as PIDs. At our last board meeting, we discussed the need for a governing document to establish the parameters within which the potential public infrastructure district, or PIDs, could operate at the point. These PIDs provide a mechanism for financing public improvements for the project. Over the past 2 weeks, JC and staff has met with groups of our board members to get their input on key policy elements of the governing document. And I know I was able to attend one of those, and it was really helpful. And I think for the members who attended, and I think probably a majority of our board did attend, that input has been incorporated. The input that board members gave as part of those meetings have been incorporated into the draft that we will review today. So with that, we'll turn the time to our legal counsel, J.C. Skinner. And is Kim Casey also going to join us? Is she virtual?
Yes.
Okay.
Kim is online, and Brian.
Okay. We
Baker is
welcome
online as well.
Kim and also Brian Baker, our financial advisor from Zion Public Finance, to help guide us and walk us through the proposed government documents. So, JC, let's start with you, and you can direct the rest of the group.
Thank you. And actually, before I do, Director Matheson, anything that you want to add to that? Okay. Thank you. I do want to just preface for those who are listening, out of an abundance of caution and in deference to the Open Public Meetings Act, to make it clear that the meetings that Representative Snow, Chair Snow referred to, were discussions with board members to go through this. There was not a meeting of the board. We did just take the time to go through with board members to make sure that we could answer questions and get their input to bring it back to this body to make sure that we had an open discussion and received that feedback.
That's an important note. And obviously, too, none of those educational opportunities constituted the requisite number for a quorum as well. But it gave us a chance to become educated on and somewhat of a complex financing tool. So thanks, JC, for reminding us that.
My paranoia there always shows through, so we want to make that very clear. As was mentioned, we did have a chance to discuss these documents last time. I will just give a brief overview. What we anticipate moving forward with today, subject to the board's approval, is a resolution that approves the creation of public infrastructure districts 1 through 9 on phase 1 of the Point of the Mountain property. Phase 1 is the piece of property that we have been discussing that is subject to the development agreement with our development partners, TPP. What would be anticipated here is the creation of 9 separate districts that we will start with 1 operating district and then up to 9 districts that would be formed under the same governing document. Based upon the input that we received from our conversations with board members, the governing document is very standard PID formation document with a couple of adjustments. Again, as Senator Stevenson mentioned, this is a bit of a unique project. This is state property. We will be doing long-term ground leases here and not transferring ownership, and so it does create a little bit of a different structure. At the same time, these are independent political bodies or independent corporate bodies subject to Open Public Meetings Acts and all of those types of procedures. So we wanted to create a balance where this board is very well informed of what's going on, that you have all the information about what's going on, that there is public transparency associated with that, but that this board is not directing necessarily the action. So based on your feedback, we've incorporated into the standard document really 3 main changes. Specifically, we've narrowed the definition of public infrastructure a little bit from the statutory definition to make it clear that it's anything that's contemplated and approved in the development agreement or designated for funding through the PID. So that's something that this board has already discussed and approved. Knowing that our discussions related to the development agreement were at the front end and we don't anticipate everything that will be coming forward, if the public infrastructure districts want to fund something outside of what's in that development agreement, this board can approve that or expand that scope. So it just adds that 1 check. The next change that we made there, again, in response to your comments and feedback, is that we would require a 14-day notice to the PUMSA board from the Public Infrastructure District Board of any debt issuance together with a debt issuance plan. Again, so we'll add that layer of transparency and reporting so that this board is very much aware of what is happening. And then finally, we will require the PID board to provide to the PUMSA board an opinion of counsel to the district. So we have an assurance that the debt issuance is in compliance with this governing document and everything else. So again, those are the pieces that we've added there. I want to turn the time over to Kim and/or Brian in the event that there's anything else you want to add to those pieces, and then we can talk about membership just briefly. Also, this might be a good point, Chair Snow, to allow board members to ask some questions about those pieces. Kim, do you have anything? Oh, please.
I don't think I have anything to add. I would just kind of reiterate that we tried to take the board's feedback in terms of the PID's ability to issue debt, not putting the board in the middle of consenting to that debt issuance, but trying to establish a procedure that provided much more detailed information to the board at the time that the PIDs are going forward, financing plans, what are you intending to do with these proceeds, and things to that effect, and an opportunity to object if it appears that the financing plan is not in compliance with the governing document. So the governing document is setting the guardrails of debt maturity can't exceed 30 years, property tax or assessment in lieu of taxes not in excess of 15 mils, and can't collect that for more than 40 years. Those are the basic limitations on the debt. And then the board will have the opportunity to receive these materials, review them, or have their consultants review them, and object only if there's a reasonable belief that it's not in compliance with that governing document. And otherwise, I think it is important, and we appreciate the feedback, to put in a requirement of getting an opinion that runs to the benefit of the board that that this is being done in compliance with the governing document, and that this is a legally binding obligation of the PID. So I don't think I have anything more to add to that, but I'm happy to answer questions about how that works in further detail.
Thank you, Kim. And I will just note, we are lucky to have Kim's expertise. Kim Casey is out of our Denver office, and from the beginning of PIDs in this country, Kim has worked on a number of them. So we've been fortunate.
JC, I'm going to interrupt. Looks like Senator Stevenson has a question or comment.
I don't have a lot of questions. I've been involved with these since the inception of them, and if we can remember what I said a little earlier, that all of these land use authorities are different, and they all do have their own governing documents, but they do work. We're not looking at the first time the state has used a PID. We actually MITA has used it, and so has the inland port, and they've worked very well. We've got where we want to be, and I do agree that 30 years sometimes seems like a long time, but I think we have one that's out there at 40 years, so, with one of these other organizations. But they work, and they help us get from where we are to where we need to be. So that's the concept of any bond. It takes care of that infrastructure, gets it working, and so we can use it and assess for it in one way or another, either through a tax or a fee, and pay it back. And that's we've got the right mechanism here. Again, there may be some tweaking come to some of this process as we move through the next session, but I think we're in really good shape with what we're doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And JC, thanks for taking that question, or at least that comment. So did you want to continue? Does Brian want to make a comment?
Brian, do you have anything to add? Oh.
Brian, you may be muted. Okay. We'll go back to you, JC. See if there's any summary or follow-up with
Okay.
respect to.
We do have a couple of other items. Brian, if you want, maybe if you do have a comment, if you want to figure out how to make that work, or you can email me or text me and I can maybe make that statement. The other piece that is in this resolution that we wanted to draw the board's attention to, that was not, I will say, completely settled from the board, but what we took away, what we thought your desire was in relation to this, is the makeup of the board. In the resolution that you've been sent, and I sent you some bios, we have 4 proposed trustees, boards of trustee members for this initial public infrastructure district established. Those would be Robert Booth, Jay Hardy, Zachary Clegg, and Trevor Nickel. We anticipate that this initial board will be made up of 5 trustees. We do have a proposed member that would be representing the developers, if that's the direction that this board would like to go. Or if you would like, we can structure this so that this board appoints someone not specifically associated with the development partner, and we can delegate the authority to authorize that to this board And the co-chairs and or Alan can make that designation after the board determines that name later on. I did want to just pose that question to the board to get your direction. We have versions of this resolution that either appoint the fifth member as Elizabeth Cole or leaves that to be appointed by the board following this meeting.
Thank you, JC. So let's take questions or comments from the board, and if you care to weigh in on that last matter that JC informed us about with respect to the language in the proposed resolution, either the point board or delegated to the chairs of the board to make the fifth position appointment, or to include in the fifth position a representative of the developer. And I think, JC, you're saying that would be Elizabeth Cole.
Yes.
And so these positions or these names and these positions that are in the resolution have been, is based on input from the developers that has come to JC and Alan. Am I right about that? That this is their preference?
Yes. Yes, that would be their request, would be Elizabeth Cole and the other four, yes.
And I think it's appropriate if I say at this point, because we've also done a fair amount of work with PIDs. It's usually the case the developers are the initial board.
Yes.
So there isn't necessarily anything unusual about that. They represent the owners, and in order for the PID to go forward, it has to have 100% of the owners on board, which makes sense then that the governing body of the PID would represent the ownership interest. The issue here, if I might add, is does the point board, do we think that it would give us some level of oversight to be able to make that fifth chair appointment, or do we want to simply stay out of that governing board entirely and leave it up to board discretion? You can address that issue as members of the board, or you can address questions to JC or Kim or Brian if you have questions about their presentation. Any comments or questions from the board? Anyone raising a hand? No comments, no question. Let's go back to Senator Stevenson. Before I do that, Senator, take a chair prerogative, I suppose, just as a reminder to board members and to the public listening, and to reinforce what Senator Stevenson said, the use of PIDs, or public infrastructure districts, for obtaining the financing for infrastructure is allowed by state statute. It's been utilized now, I'm going to say, Senator, in our state. It's still relatively new, but I think we're in about our fourth year of utilization. And there are many projects throughout the state that have utilized this tool. It's working well, and essentially it allows the improved property to carry the financial burden of the improvement. And so it's a good tool. And I don't mean to take over Brian's position, and he may comment on this. The value to the developer and in turn the value to the owners of the property is those improvements are usually financed at a much lesser rate than what the developer would be able to obtain public financing for. And that savings ultimately is passed on in order to keep the project marketable. And so there is some sense and value for this project and for the success of the project, and I thought I would include that. So Senator Stevenson, your light's on.
Thank you. Those are great comments, and all absolutely true. The other thing about the PID that a lot of folks don't understand, that there's a review process after the board goes through and do what they do, of some of the best financial minds in the state that review that process, review the projects and where that money is going and the payback mechanism. So we're not kind of the final note. That's just after the PID is put together. The final note is it does have to go through a review committee by the state of Utah. And it's made up of the state treasurer and a lot of folks that are in that arena. So seems to work out pretty well. And we've, so far, I think we're betting 100% on them. And, you know, time tells on a lot of those things, but I believe we're in the right court with this.
Thanks, Senator. Brian, I think I saw your
Yeah,
camera on.
I did.
Are you-
I think my mic is working now.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
let's turn some time to you.
I was just going to make the point following up, Chair Snow, that exactly what you said. The idea is that, you know, if a developer were turned loose with the land at the point of the mountain to do whatever they could to make them the most money, you would have a very different project than what is being contemplated. And so the purpose of some of these public financing tools is to help bridge the gap between what would make people the most money and what wouldn't make them as much money, but would fulfill the goal and mission and aims of what the point of the mountain is trying to become. And so as part of their proposals, all of the developers who proposed, they all asked for the ability to use some of the tools that the legislature has put in place specifically for this purpose, to be able to help bridge the gap between what a developer might make the most money from versus what a governmental entity, in this case, the Point of the Mountain State Land Authority, sees as the highest and best use, and trying to make it so we can put the best possible project together. And that's the purpose for the PIDs. That's the purpose for these tools. And that goes for this case, that goes for MIDA, that goes for Inland Port as well. It's like you're trying to figure out how to do what makes the most sense for the governmental entity that's in charge of that land, which is what we're trying to do here.
Thanks, Brian. And I might remind the board and also the public that Brian is our finance advisor with Zions Public Finance. And that organization has been around, I don't know how many years, Brian, but many, many years, to provide the kind of consulting and advising that you offer our board. And this is why he's part of the discussion. And I might mention his opinions on this issue are vital. So Brian, in that regard, not to build up too much of a foundation for this question, but in that role that you have, do you believe, is it your impression that and your position that the board is headed the right direction with moving forward with this governing document on public infrastructure district?
Yes, I believe we're at a point where that could be acted on today. I think JC would indicate that there are a couple of loose ends, one of them related to board membership that will be gone through here, but that we're at a point where the framework of the document is in what I think the legal folks call substantive final form is sufficient that we could move forward with any, I's to be dotted and T's crossed to be just polished up subsequent to the meeting. But I think we're in a good place and pretty close to that point.
Thanks very much, Brian. So I'll go back to the board for comments or questions. And JC, I believe you would agree with me. We're looking for action today. Is that correct?
We are, yes.
So if someone is prepared to make a motion, I would recommend that you include in the motion, if you are willing to do so, if it's to approve, that you also address the issue with the fifth board position as to your preference, whether or not that position can be filled by Elizabeth Cole. That's one of our versions, or whether it should be by board appointment, either to someone or delegating it to one of the chairs, or both chairs, to make that appointment. Senator Stevenson.
Thank you. I will make a motion, but as I make this motion, I would point out that this is reviewed by an independent body after it's, or a state body after it's approved by our board. So
that's a good point, but let me
But
interrupt. No.
that's why what I was going to say is, I'm not sure that it matters whether we appoint a member of our board or Elizabeth Cole. It seems like that I think all the bases get covered in the process.
Right. Well, the reason I didn't make it, what I was going to interrupt you and say is what we're looking for is a motion to approve the resolution that's in front of you. And the resolution provides for population of that district. Am I correct about that?
It does, yes. It currently lists by name 4 members and then has the 5th member to be inserted by this name to be inserted by this board.
Okay.
So Senator, forgive me for interrupting, but I just wanted you to be aware that the adoption of the resolution is what's being considered.
Thank you. Well, I would make the motion that we approve the governing document to create the PIDs and the resolution that accompanies it.
Thank you for the motion.
And is your motion to include Elizabeth Cole as the 5th board member or to have that appointed later by the board?
I would think that makes it, if that makes it more simple, I would approve that. However, what happens when Elizabeth Cole retires or moves on? Do we go back and?
So all of these board members are the initial board members and then will be replaced through the process identified in the governing documents.
Case, I would include in that motion the name Elizabeth Cole.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator, for the motion. And
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
This is Mayor Walker. I'd like to offer a substitute motion with that appointment
Wait
being.
just a second. I apologize. So it's Mayor Walker, and your motion is that we consider a substitute motion.
Yes.
Okay, would you
Only
state your substitute motion?
Substitute motion is the same as Senator Stevenson's, with the exception of the board appointing that last person.
So the substitute motion, which we have to take up first, is that essentially the same motion that Senator Stevenson made, with the exception of that 5th chair appointment to be made by the commission. Is that your substitute motion?
Yes, and the commission could be the co-chairs, either way.
All right. We have to address this issue. So the substitute motion is before us. Do I have a second to the substitute motion?
I'll second. This is Jenny Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. I have a second on the substitute motion. Let me go back to Mayor Walker and see if you'd like to speak to the substitute motion.
Well, just as we reviewed, we went over as we had our meetings with the council, I think this doesn't create the liability that we were all concerned about, but it does give some involvement from the board in this, since the board is running this project. And the board might just appoint Elizabeth, or you guys might, whoever you appoint. I just think that it's behooves us to have some influence on at least the appointment to these boards, just for the public perspective of seeing that the Point Commission is still, involved in all the aspects of it.
Thank you, Mayor, for that summary. Further discussion to the substitute motion?
If I could.
This is Jenny Wilson, and I think first of all, I want to thank staff and those who have participated in the process to get us to where we are today on the PIDs. I think that given the unique nature of this board, I think many of us have had some experience with PIDs, but I think that I walked away from engagement just a week ago feeling like the board should not overtake the PID process from the developers, but that we should have at least in these initial stages lean into being a little more engaged. And then as things get up and running, maybe we can loosen up a bit. And I think that we can't do the reverse. And so I appreciate the mayor's recommendation that on this board appointment, we are more directly involved than not, and without at the same time taking over. So with that, I'm going to support this motion, the substitute.
Thank you, Mayor. We're going to go back to the maker of the original motion, Senator Stevenson, for comment.
Yes, my comment would be I would have no I have no problem with the substitute motion. It seems like that works well and so.
Okay. Are you willing to withdraw
Yeah,
the underlying
I
motion?
would withdraw my motion.
Your request to withdraw the underlying motion, and that's done. So the only motion before us is the substitute motion, which is now the primary motion. Further discussion to the motion of Mayor Walker that's before us. Not seeing any hands up or indication for comment, we will place that motion for vote. The motion is to approve the resolution that's before us, and that the fifth seat on the governing board of the PID be filled by an appointee made by either the full board or by the co-chair's appointment. Have I stated it correctly, Troy?
I'm actually good with it being by the co-chairs if to make it simpler.
So with that provision, that the fifth seat be filled by appointment by the co-chairs of the board. So I'll place that motion for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, JC, Kim, and Brian for your help, and for board members for your attendance at those educational conferences, and for your input today. So with that, we will move on to the next item, which is the item number 7 on the agenda, the results of our Arts Master Plan focus groups. We have with us today Amanda Golden and Jasmine Metcalf. They may be joining us virtually, and that's apparently the case. So as background, recently Designing Local, Jasmine and Amanda are here on behalf of that entity. They are the consultant leading development, leading the Arts Master Plan for the project. They conducted a series of focus groups to gather input on the plan, and they have joined us virtually to share the results of that focus group. Amanda and Jasmine, we welcome you and thank you for your work and your help, and we'll turn the time to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Good morning to you all. My name is Amanda Golden. I'm the managing principal of Designing Local. And just a quick overview of our team. We are also joined by Mark Riggleman, who is a public artist, and also by Union Creative Agency, which is a team out of Utah that is helping us with public engagement. On Designing Local's team, we are a small team. We're local to Columbus, Ohio, and we are a certified WBE. We just turned 10 in March, and we have done a number of public art plans all over the country, and we are thrilled to be working with you all. And you can go to the next slide. As you shared, we have done a number of public engagement outreach opportunities. We've had 3 focus groups where we invited arts organizations and arts professionals, as well as artists, to participate from all over the state. We had 27 total attendees. We had folks who were part of the architecture and design field, as well as public art and arts and culture organizations. And we also had a few economic development professionals. This engagement really allowed us to expand our understanding of how the rest of the state could be engaged with developing a strategy for public art at the point. And Anna, if you'll go ahead and click to the next slide. Which has really allowed us to begin to put some words and framework and theme around what we believe your artwork strategies will be. And I will hand that over to Anna to provide you an update on.
Thanks, Amanda. And good morning, everyone. I am actually Jasmine's stand-in today. My name is Anna Tellerico, and I am Designing Local's public art coordinator. So some of the things that evolved from these conversations was that there's a real desire for a balance of scale. So having different kinds of encounters with public art that can be very intimate, very one-on-one, but also that could be very communal and large and grand. So part of the strategies, thank you for changing my name. Part of the strategies that we're developing are to account for those different kinds of encounters, to really accommodate the different experiences that can be had at this site. And along those lines, we're thinking about how to incorporate artworks that range in scale from massive and to intimate and everything in between. There was also a strong desire to integrate art and technology through public art opportunities, which could include projection mapping with lights, to kinetic sculptures that are activated by natural elements, including wind and water, which really enhances this next point about art that really reflects, enhances, and supports natural surroundings. The overall goal here is that Utah is beautiful without public art. And so the public art should really enhance and emphasize that and not take away from the beautiful geography that's surrounding this site. Given the different kinds of age groups, and people of all backgrounds that will be at this site, we also heard a lot about artwork being playful and interactive and engaging and going beyond something that you see and really becoming something that you encounter and embed in your experience. I mentioned wind and water features that goes beyond the desire for fountains, but maybe thinking about how the natural elements could really activate artworks and be elements in artworks themselves. A huge priority, certainly as we're thinking about public art procurement and supporting those processes, is to ensure the durability and low maintenance needs for artworks, given particularly the Utah climate. So this is a list of words that really synthesize what people want art to feel like at the point. And I think as you go through this list, it really becomes evident that people want art to feel very human and touch them very deeply in a way that stays with them. They want to be moved by art. They want to participate in the art rather than it being something decorative or something beautiful just in the public space. It's really meant to activate these engagement opportunities and this sense of place that we're trying to support. And then we also wanted to offer some inspiration images for what these feelings and these themes could look like. So these are public art projects that exist in the world, and they are really a great touch point for how to capture some of the sentiments that we garnered through these stakeholder conversations. So you can see lots of color, light, playing with different materials and scale, whimsy, and engaging at every level. And then the other interesting set of findings that we gathered during these stakeholder conversations were some of the stories that could be told about Utah through public art. So there's lots to be said here, I'm sure, specifically about Jell-O salad and the Utah State song, all kinds of fun, unique stories that are really personal to Utahns alike. And we're looking forward to understanding how we could support those through public art. Amanda?
Thanks, Anna. So as you can tell, we've really done a lot of work around what things might resonate with people from all across the state and how to really create meaningful interventions all throughout the site. But there were some overall guiding themes and values that have come up again and again, and these are going to be kind of our guideposts for all the recommendations that we will be making. All of the public art will be inclusive and welcoming. It will have a connection to the place, which we've talked about. Those are those stories that we really want to celebrate and honor in this space. We heard over and over again that the artwork that's at the point should be community oriented, celebrating all the different communities that make up the state, and really celebrate family and fostering lots of connection and belonging. We want to make sure that the materials that are being used are sustainable and accessible to folks and to the artists who are sourcing that material. And we also know that a lot of the artwork should be surprising because of the aspirations that the Point has as a place within the state's development patterns. We do want a lot of the work to be surprising and experimental and futuristic. I'm not specifically referring to art and technology. We're just talking about kind of the theme around it being experimental and something that you wouldn't find in any other place. We know that this is a unique opportunity to really bring an incredible collection to this very specific place, and doing something that is experimental is going to make that happen and be able to be delivered. The next phase of our engagement is really focused on going out and building on the survey that was taken last year. We have a larger survey that is going to be in place. We're really seeking some input on what site-specific artwork should really be. What should the scale within those specific areas be of the art? What kinds of materials should there be? And really what those specific stories are. So we're taking what we heard and now we're asking the question of the public again and following up with that information and saying, where should we head next? What kinds of recommendations should we be making specifically? And some of the additional considerations that we are thinking about now as a team are really how do we use public art as a storytelling tool? How do we begin to support local artists from throughout the state? Are there opportunities that we can create within this really unique opportunity to support emerging public artists from the state of Utah? Are there opportunities to support local businesses who could be fabricators of large-scale public art in Utah? How do we just ultimately reinforce the expansion and the growth of the cultural community there within the state? And this is a really unique opportunity to position the state to be a really interesting and vital economic engine to artists. I think really and truly a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And then finally, I think the less kind of sexy part of this is really about stewardship and government. And how this program will be governed, who is going to own and maintain the artwork, how are the artwork pieces going to be selected, and how do we ultimately build a collection that all people can be proud of both in 2024, 2025, and then also in 2055 and 2065, and how can that collection not represent just a one decade span, but how can this collection really be timeless and be something that people return to see again and again and again? So with that, I'll share our next steps. And again, we're launching that survey. We hope to visit you all in person in early August. We really want to present our findings in person to the public and maybe some of you. And we really are beginning to synthesize all of our findings and begin to place specific recommendations on very specific locations within phase one, and then some thematic recommendations for the rest of the development. And with that, we'll take questions.
Mike on here. Thanks very much, Amanda and Jasmine, for that presentation, that update. I've got a few questions, but I'm going to wait and let members ask any questions they have. Don't see any. Let me tell you, just I'm not an artist, I'm not a musician, but I love to appreciate good art and music and the arts in general. So I can't tell you how excited I am personally for the work that you're doing and for the vision of this body to make sure that we allocate time, space, and resources for the arts, for infusing into this development the culture that's so important to our state and to the residents. It's going to be much more, in my view, than just a place of buildings and places where people work and eat. It's going to be, it's going to fulfill that role too. I want you to know that's something I personally believe strongly, and you're an important part of that. One of the questions that I had was, are you involved or engaged in a relationship with the developers so that there is some dovetailing of what is being done architecturally, and to the extent possible that there is some compatibility for what you're all hoping to achieve. Do you understand my question?
Absolutely. That is such a great question. We had a work session this past week where we were talking with all of the developers and really thinking about how we can begin to tailor our recommendations within the context of all of the work that they're doing. So how do we begin to ask questions about scale within the scale of the buildings that are actually going to be on the site? How do we begin to ask about how an artwork might interact with a very specific park that is between buildings, and what's that going to look like? And how do we begin to orient both the public, the development team, you all as a board, and also your future artists who are going to be coming and creating that piece of art in those spaces to really have a very solid understanding of what that is going to look like. So that's a great question. We are continuing to engage the development team, and they're an integral part of the work that we are doing.
Thank you. And just a comment. I don't know whether members of the board or Amanda and Jasmine, I suspect you know what I'm talking about, but if you visit San Jose downtown, what they've done with murals is amazing, and I'm not certain that on buildings, and I'm not certain you have to incorporate to the extent they have, but wondered if you know what I'm talking about and whether there would be room for some of that. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Absolutely. We are very excited about the opportunity for mural making within the Point, and we believe that it's going to be a very important intervention to offer artists as well as to the development team, because we all know that to become one of these prolific public artists that are making very large scale sculpture, it's a very specific career track to get to the point where you're able to execute something this large. And murals take less time to hone in that craft, but really provide artists an opportunity to do large scale pieces with a lot of impact. It's also one of those art forms that provide an opportunity to have a high impact and a much lower cost than you would with a large scale sculpture. So murals are absolutely going to be part of our recommendation and part of our intervention package that we'll be presenting to you in the fall.
Thank you very much. Other questions or comments from the board before we wrap up here? All right. Thanks again, Jasmine and Amanda. And I look forward to August when you'll be doing some, I think you said one-on-one presentations, and I don't want you to have to come all the way to St. George, maybe sometime when I'm up here, but I look forward to that.
I'd love to come to St. George. I'll make that happen. Thank you all very much.
Even in the summer, that'd be good.
Yes.
All right. Before we take a motion to adjourn, I'm going to turn some time to our director, Alan. He has a matter to take up and with the board and has a recommendation, suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to all who have participated today. I think it's been a productive meeting, and we're making progress a step at a time. It's fun to see. So you all recognize that from the beginning, we've talked about internal circulators at the site, ways to get people around the site without having to get in their cars. And there are a number of options that are available for that. I think maybe the most basic and the least expensive is to have shuttles that drive around on the road system. You can step up from that and think about autonomous vehicles and separate corridors. We've been looking at a number of options, and there's one that has emerged recently that would provide a bit of a wow factor to the site, would address some issues with conflicts on the ground. And we're looking to see if there are some members of the board that would be willing to be part of a subcommittee to look at this technology, see if we think it's viable or of interest to the board. We've got a proposal from the company to do kind of a feasibility study. I don't think this would take a lot of time, but it'd be helpful for us to be able to get a few board members to weigh in and help us decide whether we want to pursue this course at all. So that's my request, to see if anybody would be willing to volunteer to be on a subcommittee to explore a potential circulator option at the Point.
You're welcome to speak up now, or it's okay, Alan, if they contact you offline and,
Absolutely.
yeah. Um,
Yeah, I think I would be interested in doing that. This is Representative Stenquist.
Thanks, Representative. Okay, brings us to the end of the meeting. I just want to add my thanks to what Alan said. Thank you, board members, for being here, for your engagement, and for the work that you do here, that your service. With that, I would entertain a final motion from someone.
Motion to adjourn, Mayor Walker.
Thanks, Mayor Walker. Moved, and do I have a second for adjournment?
Second, Don Ramsey.
Thanks, Mayor, both mayors. All in favor, say aye.
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 Passes. We stand adjourned. We'll see you later. Maybe see you